Good morning, folks. Today you find me in Tewitfield in Lancashire. This is the northern reach of the Lancaster Canal, the most navigable section of the canal. And you may have seen a video that I filmed about a month ago when I was here just having a little wander and explore. Well, I've come back, and today the plan is to walk to Kendal following the route of the Lancaster Canal. So the canal used to go all the way up to Kendal, and today I'm going to trace that route. So yeah, join me as we explore what's left of the northern reaches of the Lancaster Canal. So when I was here last time, I explained that one of the reasons that the Lancaster Canal doesn't go any further north than Tewitfield is because of the M6 motorway, which I'm walking past, which is well, I'm trying to raise my voice so you can hear me over the sound of the traffic. So the M6 has dissected the canal in several locations. So very sadly, the canal, which used to run all the way up to Kendal, no longer does so. But you can still follow the route of the canal, certainly most of the way. So I've been thinking about this over the last month, and it's a lovely, fresh autumnal day. So I thought, well, let's try this out and explore what's left of the canal. So we have a number of old locks here at this section of the canal, just by Tewitfield. I hope I'm pronouncing that name correctly. And as I said when I was here last time, the locks themselves are actually in pretty good condition. Obviously missing the lock gates, but the stonework doesn't look bad at all. There are people who would like to see the canal restored all the way through to Kendal. There is a campaign to try and do that. However, it would be quite a significant challenge because of the M6. I'm just going to clamber around the gate. So one of my plans for next year is to come here with my paddleboard and to actually see how far I can paddle up this canal. And just beside me, again, I filmed this a month ago, is an animal farm that you can visit. Got all sorts of different creatures there, animals there, so you can see some emus. Not your typical wildlife that you expect to find in North Lancashire. So this is lock number 2. So we're just heading up to lock number 3. So we have this flight of locks here at the start of the walk. So the plan is to walk to Kendal and then jump on a bus from Kendal back down to where I've parked the car. So the number 555 bus, stagecoach bus, runs from Kendal to Lancaster via Tewitfield. So if you're planning to do this journey like I am, it's quite an easy route to do by bus. Again, the lock in good condition. So here we are, lock number 4. I've been going less than 10 minutes. So we're coming up to lock number 5. And we also have a bridge over the canal as well. If you just want to come and have a little explore of the lower reaches of the northern section, you can just come here and have a brief stroll for a few minutes and you get to see all of this, so don't have to walk all the way to Kendal. That's looking north. And there we are looking south. So this is lock number 6. I think there might be 7 locks altogether in this flight. We'll find out in a moment. Yeah, so this is lock number 6 that I'm beside now. And just in front of me, I can see lock number 7 in the distance. So we'll wander up to that one. So we can see that obviously we still have water in this stretch of the canal, but when we get closer to Kendal, I believe the canal itself's being filled in. So that's lock number 7 right in front of us. Unless I've miscounted. And it does appear that there is actually another lock. So would that be 8 locks? So, by my reckoning, this is lock number 8. And I think this is the top of the flight. So here we have some of the old lock gates. Tewitfield locks, 8 locks. Raised the canal over 75 feet in half a mile. And the only ones on the 57 miles of canal between Preston and Kendal. So that's interesting. In use from 1819 to 1942. So it's nice to see the lock gates there, preserved. So that's obviously the only locks I'm going to see on this walk. It'll just be the towpath and canal bridges and the countryside as we leave Lancashire behind and head into Cumbria. So this is bridge 141. So I'm walking along the towpath. And the reason it is called the towpath is because before canal boats had engines in them to drive them, they used to be towed by horses pulling them along by rope. Hence the name towpath. Now just in front of me I can see the Welcome to Cumbria sign on the M6, and it looks like this is one of those points where the canal is actually being dissected in two. Now the question is, how do I cross this section? I'll have to have a look at the map. I may possibly need to turn back round and take a different route. But this is part of the problem with the Lancaster Canal. With a little bit more foresight, they could have built a bridge over the canal, but that would have cost more money, and at the time of building the M6 they obviously didn't think that was a priority, which is a great pity. So the canal runs under a culvert, but I need to find my way across. So it looks as though there's a bridge, a road bridge over the M6. So I'm just going back a short distance to take that road bridge, and it's not entirely clear where the path reconnects with the canal. So I can see the canal very clearly, but whether I can walk along this next section of the canal or if I need to do a little diversion, I'm not sure, but I'll find out once I've crossed the M6. So I've just realised that there is actually the Lancaster Canal Trail, and it does point the way that you're meant to go. So there's a sign there to Kendal, 13 miles, and 1 mile to Tewitfield. So I'm going to cross the M6 now. So it's very handy to have those signposts. If you've ever driven up the M6, you'll be familiar with this sign, "Welcome to Cumbria, the Lake District." And there we are, connected back to the Lancaster Canal. So a little detour. So the canal just crosses over that side, but I had to take the pedestrian bridge over there, follow a small section of road. We're back on the towpath. So hopefully the motorway and the canal diverge at this point, so I'll be walking away from the motorway, so it'll get a lot quieter, get away from the sound of the traffic. But welcome to the Lancaster Canal in Cumbria. So I've left the motorway behind, I can just hear it in the distance, but I'm actually walking alongside the West Coast main line. You can't see it from the towpath right now, but it's just to my left. And what makes this such a special stretch of canal is, as you head north, you get wonderful pictures of, or wonderful views of, the Lake District fells. Must have been arguably one of the most attractive stretches of canal in the country. If I just turn the camera that way, you can just make out the railway line in the dip below me, and in the distance the Central Fells. It's the perfect time for picking blackberries. Absolutely beautiful. So there's an information board here, but one of the interesting things on it is that the boats used to carry coal northwards to Kendal and limestone southwards, and the canal was nicknamed the Black and White Canal. And there we have the view towards the Lake District. Bumped into a canal and river trust employee who's just working on the canal. He's actually looking for a leak. There's a leak along this stretch of the canal and water's flowing into the field, so he's trying to find the source of the leak. But anyway, just chatting to him, his area sort of covers this canal, Lancaster Canal, down to the Leeds and Liverpool, sort of south of Ribble. But I was just talking to him saying, do you think there's ever going to be any chance of reconnecting the canal all the way through to Kendal? And he was saying realistically probably not, because of the expense. But apparently in the millennium there was a really big push to try and see if they could restore this canal all the way through to Kendal. And I did ask him, I said, well, if it ever was to happen, what would they do? Because you've obviously got to either get under or get over the M6. And he was saying, well, the thinking was that maybe they would build a straighter stretch, a new stretch of canal. So maybe not trying to get over the M6 or under the M6, but maybe digging a new canal and doing it that way. But as he said, finances now, it's just highly unlikely to happen. But he was also saying that he actually really likes the canal as it is. He said it's quite unique in many ways, and I can totally understand it. It is beautiful, it's very peaceful, just passing a few dog walkers and hikers and so forth. But yeah, lovely, fantastic views from here as well, looking west to the Lake District. I've always had quite an interest in canals, and if you watch my video that I made about a month ago when I visited Tewitfield for the first time, I mentioned that as a child I used to go on narrowboating holidays. But recently I've been watching a lot of YouTube videos about canals and narrowboating and living on narrowboats, and there are two YouTubers that I particularly enjoy watching, although there are many others that are very good as well. But they are Cruising the Cut and Canal Boat Diaries, and you may have seen Canal Boat Diaries on the TV if you live in the UK. But if you're interested in canals and what life is like on the canals and everything to do with the history of canals and so forth, then do check out those two, Cruising the Cut and Canal Boat Diaries. Well worth subscribing to. Hello? So opposite where I'm standing are the remains of 5 coke ovens, and you might just be able to make them out. But coke was produced by the partial burning of coal to remove it from volatile impurities such as sulfur, making it effective fuel for iron smelting industry. And you used to get coke smoking ovens along the side of many canals, such as here. So I've caught up with the motorway again, and again it looks like I've come to a dead end on the canal, a section where the canal's been filled in. So I know I'll have to try and get under the motorway, I think, at some point along the stretch, and then the canal continues the other side of the motorway. It's quite wide, the canal here, and one of the reasons for this is this probably was a winding hole, and winding holes were points on the canal where it was wide enough to turn a boat around, because narrowboats are, as the name would indicate, long and narrow, and so you need a wider section of the canal to swing the boat around if you want to head in a different direction. And the canal here is a bit wider, so I wonder if that was what it was, a winding hole. And again, you can just make out a culvert which goes underneath the road there. So it's actually only this little road that's divided the canal in two parts. So you can just see the canal through there, and here we are back on the path. Again, wouldn't have been difficult to build a little bridge over the canal. There you can just make out, or you might just be able to make out the culvert underneath the road. So again, we're coming to the end of this little section of the canal, and you might just be able to make out in front of me the cars on the motorway. So the canal again goes underneath the motorway via the means of a culvert, and the footpath is just going to take me over the motorway. But yes, you can just see the cars there. Again, that should have been a bridge over the canal, or could have been a bridge over the canal. So this is the second section on the canal where the M6 dissects the canal. We've had that other little road behind me also dissecting the canal. And 9.5 miles according to the sign to Kendal. So that's the M6 crossed again, and we're just coming back to the canal, so we'll be rejoining the canal in just a moment. So here we are, coming up to what I assume was another winding hole. There's an old building here, presumably something to do with the canal, but again, useful location to turn boats around. I wonder if there might have been something else there connected to the canal. Almost looks like a little wharf. Fortunately, the Lancaster Canal Trust has placed benches along the route of the canals, so I just stopped here just for a little rest and a bite to eat. So this is another section of the canal cut off. So the road just above the canal there is the A65 that heads over towards the Yorkshire Dales. Just makes you realise what a mammoth task it would be to try and reconnect the canal all the way to Kendal. The cost would just be so expensive. They've been doing quite a lot of work along this towpath, as you can just see down here. And this stretch of the canal looks like it should be in use. I sort of expect to see a narrowboat chugging around the corner any moment. But it's good to see that the Canals and River Trust are still looking after this stretch of canal, even if it isn't connected to the main network and no longer being used for canal traffic. So yet another section of the canal cut into, this time by the M6. It's funny because, as I said, this stretch of the canal almost looks like it's in use. So they built the bridge of the motorway over this road And they could have obviously done the same for the canal, which is just over here, but they chose not to, which is a pity. So here we are. So as you can see over there, construction vehicles being used to improve the towpath between Kendal and Lancaster. Again, we've got another winding hole there for boats to turn. Coming up to bridge 164. So only 8 locks on this canal, but over 164 bridges so far. Look what we've just found. The Lancaster Canal Trust narrowboat. I had a feeling there was a narrowboat somewhere on this canal, obviously used to take visitors up and down just a small stretch. You can see there charter, special trips, talks, guided walks. But it's lovely to see an actual narrowboat on the canal. So at least a small section of the northern reaches of the Lancaster Canal are still being used by one narrowboat. We've got a piece of public art here. There you can just make out, actually you probably can't see very clearly because of the sun, but there's a man leading a horse, who would presumably be pulling a barge. So I got the description half right. This horse isn't pulling a barge, it's actually part of an old tramway that used to serve a gunpowder works that was taking place here. So the horse would pull the tram along some tracks with the gunpowder in. You can see they've clearly marked out the path that they're going to be improving, and just to my left, you probably can't see it very clearly, is the Westmoreland Showground. So the Westmoreland Show is held there each year in September, an important agricultural fair for this part of Cumbria and North Lancashire. So here we are at the final section of the canal with water in, or at least the final section for the moment, because if I turn round, there we have the canal bed, which is empty, but it does have some sheeting down on the canal bed. So I wonder if they've been trying to restore sections of the canal. The interesting thing is that this section here on the map does not indicate any water. So about a few hundred yards around the corner, that's where the map indicates the canal ends in terms of water. But yet there's water here. So I wonder if there is an attempt, at least on sections, to refill the canal with water. So I suspect from now on I'll just be following the route of the canal, but no actual water in the canal. But let's continue, let's find out. So here we have a canal tunnel, which is actually going underneath the West Coast Main Line. I'm not sure if you can walk through the tunnel or if you have to go over the hill, so I'm just going to have a look here. Again, another sculpture. Hincaster tunnel, 346 metres in length. So, long tunnel. So the sign is saying no unauthorised entry into the tunnel. So just have to have a look at it from here. In fact, actually it looks quite muddy underfoot, so I wouldn't want to go in there anyway. But an impressive tunnel. In fact, it's got some water there on the floor. First tunnel I've seen on this walk today. So this is quite interesting. The tunnel was built between 1816 and 1817, 378 yards long and 146 feet above sea level. And it says that the boats will pull through the tunnel by means of a chain or rope fixed to the south wall, and apparently the fixing rings can still be seen, or legged through by the boatmen. And the horses were led over the hill on the horse path. And this is an image of what legging looks like through a tunnel, where you would lie on the roof of the boat and you would literally walk the boat through. And it was last used for commercial traffic in 1944. So there must be people around who remember the canal when it was in use, within living memory. Apparently they used 4 million bricks to construct that tunnel, and it was the first major brick construction north of the River Mersey, according to what I've just read. So yeah, interesting. It's one of the things I love about canals. You always come across some interesting facts, information from the past, part of our industrial heritage. So we're taking the horse path because there's no towpath through the tunnel. So this is the way the horses would have been led. So here we are, the other side of the tunnel. And there's a sign here, Hincaster Tunnel and Horse Path opened in 1819. And there you have the hook on the side there, which the chain would have run through to pull the boat along. And that's the canal bed heading north. It's 5 miles apparently to Keswick, 5 miles to Kendal from here. So still quite a way to go. And apparently 9 miles to Tewitfield, so almost done 2/3 of the journey. And again, got another sculpture here in front of me. Doesn't seem to be any information with that one. But anyway, let's keep going. So we're just crossing the A591. So if you're coming up the M6 and you're wanting to go to Windermere, Ambleside or Keswick, or to Ulverston or Barrow, you would take the A591. So that's looking west. So I'm still following the Towpath trail, but as you can see, I'm walking through fields at the moment, so I'm not entirely sure where the actual canal bed lies. I'm hoping I'll pick it up somewhere a little bit further on. I'm about 4 miles now to Kendal. Can just make out some houses in the distance. In fact, I see a bridge in front of me, so I wonder if that's an old canal bridge. Now looking that way, you wouldn't guess that you're walking along the old route of the canal. And the only clue of the canal's existence is this bridge, which obviously traversed the canal, but the canal bed behind me has disappeared completely. A bit more indication of the canal there. Just been reading another information board, and it was saying that it's not entirely known why that bridge was left in the field, but one suggestion was that it might have been too expensive to dismantle, so they just left it, or maybe they just used it as a shelter for sheep. But anyway, we're back on a more obvious towpath, again walking alongside the empty canal. So this is Sedgwick Aqueduct, and it crosses the road. Apparently this stretch of canal was drained of its water in 1955. So we're attracting some attention, as you can see behind me with the cows. The cows seem to be particularly interested by dogs. And oh, sorry, whoa! Sorry, just trying to move the lead around my back. Yes, Jessie is not happy. What are you doing? Hello, can I help you? The thing is, when you're walking through a field with cows, you shouldn't run. Because if I was to start running now, cows are curious and they would start running as well. But you just have to be cautious and patient. If there was a problem with the cows, I would let the dog off the lead, and hopefully she would run away and they would follow her and she would outrun them. The trouble is, knowing my dog, she would probably run to me for help, which wouldn't help me at all, would it? No. But they're just curious creatures. Anyway, I'm just going to ignore the cows behind me. We're coming to another bridge that used to go over the canal. I'm not entirely sure what the purpose of this bridge was in terms of where it was linking, because there's nothing either side of it, but there we go. Hello. This might be one of the most exciting things that's happened to them today. Hello, you're looking rather beautiful. Anyway, just going to keep walking. Bridge 180. Again, a really nicely preserved old bridge. So I'm about 2 miles now from Kendal, just past the village of Natland, which is just on the edge of Kendal, and yeah, not too far to go. I'll be totally honest, I'm not entirely sure where the canal finished in the town. I think it's somewhere near the Castle Mount, but hopefully there'll be some sort of indication, some sort of signs as I enter into the town. And once I get into Kendal, it'll be a short walk to the bus station, and then check what time the bus is back down to Tewitfield. I think they go every hour, so hopefully I won't have to wait too long. It's been a really interesting walk, really enjoyable walk, although I think my body's starting to tell me that it's getting tired. So I'm entering Kendal proper now. According to the sign, it's 1.5 miles to the end of the route. If you are thinking of doing this walk, it is very well signposted. There you go, Canal Head, 1.5 miles and 12.5 miles to Tewitfield from here. But yeah, the whole route is easily signposted, or well signposted I should say, so it's not a difficult route to follow, and because you're following an old canal, it's pretty level most of the way. The only thing some people may struggle with is the distance. I think it's about 26 kilometres. What's that, 14, 15 miles? Just trying to think what that sign just said. It's taken me about 5 hours to get to this point, walking about 4.9 kilometres per hour. I've just had the one break, which was for lunch. So this is bridge 186 on the Lancaster Canal, very close to the end of the canal route, and this is a change bridge which enabled horses to change sides of the canal by walking over the bridge without being unhitched from the boat. And that's an image of a coal barge at Canal Head in Kendal. So it looks very different now. So I'm pretty much in the centre of Kendal now. I can see the parish church just a short distance in front of me. What I'm not at all clear about is where the canal actually ended, and I do wonder actually if I've maybe gone past the end of the canal route. There's no indication, no marker of where the canal actually finished. So we've got another bridge which may indicate that I'm still on the route of the canal. So hopefully there might be some indication where the canal actually finished. I've seen signs to the castle to my right. And although it may not look it, I am actually pretty much in the centre of Kendal. Just a couple of minutes walk away from the main high street. In fact, there's a sign there, town centre. The weather's been very kind to me today. Forecast was 9 degrees, but it's actually felt much warmer than that. Well, I don't actually know where the canal ended or where Canal Head was. I'm going to assume that it was around here in this location. I'm going to at least stop tracking my route here because I am in the centre of Kendal, bridge over the main river there. But anyway, yeah, so as I say, it'd be quite nice to know where the canal actually ended. I'm going to switch on my main Google Maps, see if I can find any information on there, because it's not showing me much on the Ordnance Survey map. But it's yeah, it's been a good walk. I've enjoyed it. But as I say, it'd be nice to know where it actually officially ends. So I've just had a look on Google Maps, and there is actually a canal road north and a canal road south, and I've actually just walked past it. It was near the municipal dump here in Kendal, so I did obviously walk past where the canal ended, but again, it wasn't very obvious. Anyway, I'm gonna walk now into the centre of town and find out what time the bus is back to Tewitfield. So here we have a new footbridge over the river. I think this is very new. I've not actually been across it myself before. So found the bus stop, no problem at all, nice and clear. Unfortunately, I'd missed a bus by probably 5-10 minutes. So there's one at 5:15 I'm going to catch, and that should get me back to Tewitfield about 6 o'clock, and then from there back home just after 7, so not too bad. Just going to have a little wander down to the river just to kill a few minutes. No point hanging around at the bus stop. The river's nice and calm now, but Kendal does get quite a lot of flooding. Hard to imagine it on a day like today. Thirsty dog. I haven't got anything for you. You have to find a stick. I can't. No, you have to find one. I don't have one.